Hi there, I'm Kurt, and you're probably wondering what you're watching at this point. So, recently I've been having just the desire to make again. And this is an attempt at sharing that process. So what you're watching is me actually just going through and making a piece of art. And what you're hearing, and what the actual series of these are going to be, is me talking about a different idea or concept that's been rattling around in my head that I really need to kind of put out there. So let me just go back to the beginning, because what I'm going to be talking about today desires a little bit of context about me personally. So my name is Kurt, I am 26 years old, and my whole life I've had an obsession with creating and making, be that from Legos when I was a child to nowadays where I make things like you're watching right now. And throughout all of that, there has always been a purity to creation. Something that I've found to be almost a fundamental thing that is within my mind, within my body, that I just have to do. And the thing from last year that I kind of learnt was that through this troubling time that we found ourselves in, people found themselves creating, but where I found myself was actually struggling with creating. Because although I had the love of creating throughout my whole life, the moment I started to try and move into a world of making that a career as well, it really started to challenge the fundamental belief in that thing itself. So, all through high school, I was someone who realized that, creation is something I can do, but also something that other people appreciate. Be that from art, be that from assignments that did well. I found that there was something within it that I could do that made other people go, that's cool. An idea that I had that I could move into the real world and could affect someone else's life in a better way. So, moving into university, I really started to embrace that concept of going, how can I use this passion I have for making in general to creating something of value for other people? And I was very fortunate that out of university, I had a job as an animator. I saw firsthand the actual capitalistic side of it. And I should preface that I do believe in a lot of the capitalistic sort of mentality. I understand it. But there's also a level of, not hate, but distrust of that sort of concept because of the people that do kind of brandish it in a way that becomes a weapon rather than a tool. And that is something that I've found I've struggled with the past couple of years, in that everything I've been creating has been going through that sort of machine, that this thing I'm making has value, so therefore I can make money from it, or I can further my career from it. And that has worked to my advantage. I have been put in positions where I'm working with amazing clients, or I am now teaching at that university to the next generation of going, hey, here's that talent that you have, and here's how to monetize it. And there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that, but in doing that, I found that I was starting to lose that passion of creating, which led me to the end of last year where I decided that I needed to just stop making. And that's a big thing for me because, as I said, my whole life has been about creating and making things and affecting other people with what I create. And for the longest time, I hadn't made anything for me. I had lost that initial passion that came with it. And this is no new concept. I am definitely not the first person to go through this. Hell, I'm not the first person I know to go through this. But it really started to hit hard and I needed to take a step back. And for the past couple of months, I haven't made anything. Every now and again there's been the drive to make something and I may have dabbled, but I haven't officially made something for the distinct purpose of the joy I found when I was younger. And there's nothing wrong with that. I definitely need to preface that the idea of losing love for something you once had is not a bad thing. Might just be that you're in my sort of circumstance where it wasn't a loss of love. It was just there was too much exposure, and because of that, it had lost something in the process. Almost like a lost in translation sort of situation. So, in that break, I decided to stop making things in general, as just like a sabbatical from it. And what I found in that was that I still had that drive to make. At first it was, okay, well, I feel guilty if I'm not making. And then it was, well, there is a purpose for making. And then eventually it was just, I want to make. And that was the purity that I was looking for. There doesn't need to be any rhyme or reason behind it, just the fact that I love to make, and there is something there that I can do that, I guess, gives purpose to my actions. And I don't mean to make this sound like some sort of huge epiphany of like, my life has changed and whatnot. It's really just rediscovering something that I loved, and finding a way to make sure that I don't lose that again. So, for instance, the thing you're watching right now, it is actually me making a piece of art based on a character I'm making for a Dungeons & Dragons game. There is nothing about this that is going to be wildly successful. Yes, I'll make a social post about it and this video about it, but other than that, it is purely for me and the friends that I'm playing with. But I put just as much work into this that I have most other things in the past year and a bit. And in making it, I realised once again that yes, I have a talent for making. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm in a position where if I didn't, I would worry. It is something I've learnt that I am very good at making, be it in one form or another, and I love the freedom that it brings, be it in whatever form. Yes, what you're watching may be a 3D render at the end of the day, but everything from like the initial Lego days to even just crafting a story, there is a purity in it that I've always found comforting. And I guess the whole point of this is just to, one, force myself to actually create something and put it out there once again, but even if it just affects one person, I hope that something I say will spark that moment of, oh, I don't need to be necessarily amazing at it. I don't necessarily need to have an end purpose. But if someone can find a beauty in creation, I have yet to see something that is more effective. Now, I might be on my high horse and you can tell me to go away, but if you can, just try and make something. Because, as I've said, there is a beautiful aspect of it that when there is no obligation behind the final result, instead you're just focusing on the practice of making something. It's almost like a meditation, because you can use it to get all sorts of thoughts and ideas out without having to forcefully go, hey, here is this thing that's worrying me, or hey, here is this thing that I've really been focused on recently. It's the beautiful thing about art, is that everyone can see it in a different way. I've said this to many of my friends before, but everything I post, there is something personal that went into that. Now, whether or not that was actually a specific thing, like, hey, this moment in this little thing here is important to me, or whether it was just the emotion that was being used in the creation of it. Admittedly, I don't know where most of my things are going to be going. I can project the idea, and when I am in that professional mindset, I can guide myself in a certain way, but at the end of the day, to make the things like you're watching, there has to be no real direction. There can be an idea, but I found the moment that creation has a documented outline that you need to follow, it no longer becomes creation, and instead it becomes a monotonous task. And that's kind of what led to the end of last year, where I just stopped. But now I haven't. Now I've kind of gone back into the deep end of just creating for myself, and I'm loving it. And I plan on doing a lot more of these, be it in the form that you're watching right now, or documenting the process of creating more things in new ways. So, now that I've just kind of talked your ear off for close to 10 minutes, I'll give it a break there, and then leave you just to kind of experience the world of creation for yourself. Now, keep an eye out, because chances are, once I start something, I will continue it, so that's what this is. And if you actually did get something out of this, please reach out to me and tell me that you did, because I love being able to help people get through the idea of the model of starting to actually starting, because we so often love the idea of getting started on something, but so often the actual challenge of starting stops us. So yeah, I'll leave it there. I won't continue chatting your ear off, but I appreciate you getting to this part in the video, because that means that either you skip forward or you've actually sat here and listened to the thoughts, and I appreciate that a lot. So once again, I'll sign off here, and I hope to see you in the next one.